Indian foreign policy in 2019. So this topic is being presented by Anu Malik. She is preparing for FCAT entry. Anu, you can start. Start.
Hello everyone. My topic is Indian foreign policy in 2021. As any other country in the world, India also wanted to increase its sphere of influence and also wanted to emerge as a regional power. So what are the challenges for India in 2021? The first challenge is strong China. China is the only country which has the positive GDP growth in 2020, which is 2.3%. And in 2021, China will be the fastest growing economy. So it is a challenge for India because we have seen that India and China are in confrontation and the relation between India and China is not that good. Secondly, China is also launching its third aircraft carrier, which is type 003, and wanted to make an influence in India Pacific region. So this is the first challenge for India. The second challenge for India is growing Russia-China axis. Russia is the all-time weather friend of India, and we have seen that due to the Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, the sanctions were imposed on Russia by the US, and India is also increasing its closeness with US. So it might be happen that India would lose its traditional friends like Russia or Iran. Now talk about the third challenge. The third challenge is changing Middle East equation. It's changing Middle East equation. Recently, we have seen that Israel, UAE, and Bahrain have signed an accord which is known as Abraham Accord. And according to this accord, they will have a good relations. They will have the embassies and good trade among these countries. And we have seen that these countries are against Iran because Iran has a Muslim population which is Shia, and Saudi Arabia has the Sunni population, and there is always conflict between these two communities, which will create a disruption of peace in this area, because in the accord they supported each other, and there is a conflict between Israel and Iran also, and Israel and Iran are good friends of India. So when there will be the conflict between Israel and Iran, and Israel is supported by Saudi Arabia because of the new accord, so this will change the dynamics in this region, and which will create a problem for India. Then the fourth one is weakening ties with neighborhood. We have recently seen that there is a checkbook policy of China which creating a debt trap for the neighborhoods. Like Sri Lanka has lost its port, which is known as Hambantota port, and in Nepal we have seen the territory dispute, and the dispute was that there were 3 points: Lipu Lake, Limpiadhura, Kalapani, which is disputed because in the last year we have seen that India has inaugurated 80-kilometer long road in this region. So the Nepal came up with this conflict, and the conflict basically is the origin of Kali River. There was a Treaty of Sagoli which was signed in 1816 between the Nepal and British India. According to this treaty, the east of Kali River will be Nepal and the west of Kali River will be India. But the conflict is that the Nepal is saying that the origin of Kali river is from Limpiadhura, and the India says that the origin is from Kalapani. So if we accept, suppose we accept that the Kali river originated from here, then we will lose the 400 kilometer of area. So this is the dispute between India and Nepal, and we are losing a close friend because of this issue. And there is also a conflict between India and Bangladesh because of NRC. NRC is the National Register of Citizens, according to which the person who has entered after 24 March 1971 will be the illegal migrant, and the person has to go to the Bangladesh. So it is a concern for Bangladesh that they would not accept those migrants because they do not have any legal documents that they belong to Bangladesh. So it is a conflict between Bangladesh and India. So this is the weakening ties with neighborhood. The fifth point is impose self-isolation of India. India recently withdrawn from the RCEP. RCEP is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. India recently withdrawn from it, and India is also not actively participate in SAARC. So it is creating an impression that India is self-isolating itself from the international platform. So it will hamper the aspiration of India to become the global power. Now talking about the way forward to it. The way forward to it is the neighborhood first policy, which we have from the long time, and in this policy we will develop good relations, bilateral relations with the neighboring country. And recently we are seeing that India is following vaccine diplomacy. Under this diplomacy, India will provide the vaccine to the neighboring country either free of cost or at adequate or the reasonable price. Okay, so the second way forward to it is the external aid in adequate measures. India should maintain the good relations with Japan, Australia, European countries like France, Germany, and US, so that we could get the external aid, whether it is monetary help or whether it is equipment, defense equipment, so that we can counter the adversaries like China or Pakistan. Then the third one is ties with US. It is very important because recently we have seen that the administration of US has changed. So what will it will impact the Quad group and the Indian Pacific strategy. So everything relies on the new administration of US. So India should maintain the good relation with US, deepen the ties, and also solve the problem of visas. Now the fourth one is India at UNSC. India for the 8th time elected as the non-permanent member of UNSC. And India got the good opportunity where they can raise the issues which is very important at the global level, not at the regional or the personal level. It is very important that India raise the issue which is impacting the global peace, like the China's aggressiveness from Tibet to Taiwan. And the second one is that refugees crisis in Bangladesh and Myanmar, and the other issues which like the Iran-Saudi conflicts. So these kind of issues India should raise and be a responsible member of the UNSC. So this is all about the topic. Any queries?
Please explain the third point, third challenge, changing Middle East questions.
So in this challenge, we have seen that Israel Israel and Iran are in conflict because Iran is supporting the Palestinians and Israel is completely against that. And there is a accord signed between UAE and Bahrain and Israel in which they will support each other. And UAE and Saudi Arabia are close allies. So the Saudi Arabia will also support Israel in any conflict between Israel and Iran, as Saudi Arabia is Sunni population and Iran is Shia population.
So how it's affecting India's foreign policy?
It will affect because Iran is a close ally to India, as India is the second largest buyer of crude oil of Iran, and Israel is also has good relations with India, as the defense equipments we are procuring from Israel, like drones and etc. So when there will be the conflict between these two countries, India cannot help or India cannot mediate in the conflict.
No, India's basically the conditions of India is this one, right? It doesn't support open into any country.
Yeah, India followed the non-aligned policy, but if there will be the conflict, like India is losing already Russia because India is growing closeness with the US. So the similar situation can be, if India help Israel in such kind of conflict, then there will be the problem.
Fine. And what about this thing, Kali River origination?
What's up?
The origin point of Kali River.
Yeah. According to Nepal, the Kali River originates from Libya Dura.
Where is this Kali River?
So it flows from Nepal to India.
India.
Yeah.
Which portion of India?
So Uttarakhand.
Uttarakhand.
Yes, sir.
Which part of Uttarakhand?
So the eastern part of Uttarakhand.
Okay. So this is the Kali River, right?
Yeah.
So what India is saying, what Nepal is saying, and what is the actual thing?
So the Nepal is saying that it is flowing from Libya Dura and India.
Where is Libya Dura?
So it is a trijection between China, India and Nepal.
Okay.
Sir, sorry, Limpia Dura is in Uttarakhand, where Lipu Lake is the trijection.
Trijection is Lipu Lake, right?
Yeah.
Libya Dura is in Uttarakhand.
Uttarakhand.
Okay.
So if India accepts the Nepal's claim, then India will lose this much of territory. Because according to the Treaty of Sagoli, the east of Kali River will be Nepal and the west of it is India.
So it is in conflict since that time only?
It is in conflict since 2015.
Why?
Because at that time, India and China signed a agreement according to which they can use the Lipu Lake for the Mansarovar Lake and the distance will be reduced. So at the time, both the countries has not consulted with Nepal.
There was some Kalapani issue also recently.
Yeah.
Past. What was that?
So the Kalapani issue is that we have created the 80-kilometer road which is passes through the Kalapani to the Kalapani, and it is basically inaugurated because it will lessen the distance. As earlier, the Mansarovar Yatra starts from the Nathula Pass and go to the Tibet, Mansarovar Lake in Tibet. So 85% the path of the 85% of the path is in Chinese territory. But if the yatra will start from India, from New Delhi, then the 16% the path will be the Chinese territory. So that is why the India created this road. But the Nepal has came up with a new political map in which they have and they claim that the Kalapani is their territory.
Fine. Anything else, anyone?
Could you please shed some light on the second point, the Russia-China axis?
Okay. The Russia has and the USA has imposed the sanction on Russia because of Crimea's annexation of Russia. Russia has annexed Crimea in 2014, after which US has imposed the sanctions, and because of which Russia is moving towards the China, And because we have seen that China and US has not good relations, so it is a good opportunity for Russia, and they are developing the good relations with China, and plus both the countries has the Communist Party, so they are supporting each other.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, Anu. Those are